Hello everyone, it's the Duke here, back with another video. It's not a review, it's actually a video on how to change your tire, because it's kind of assumed that everyone knows how to change a tire, right? And that's not the case, especially for guys. I mean, everyone assumes because you're a guy, you automatically just know how to change a tire, and there's nothing wrong with being a guy and not knowing how to change a tire.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a man and not knowing how to change a tire, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong.
Let's jump into the video before I get myself into trouble. So firstly, you're going to put the car in gear if you're driving a manual, and make sure your handbrake is up. That was a very short scene. I hope you all saw that the handbrake was up there. So then you're going to add some support by balancing the tires with some brakes. Now by balancing the tires, you just make sure the car doesn't roll backwards or forwards. I'm actually putting it in front of the wrong tire here, because this is the tire directly in front of the tire that I'm changing. You're supposed to put these brakes on the other side, so it's not directly in front or behind the tire you're fixing. It's supposed to be on the opposite side. I did later change this to the opposite side when I realized that I'm balancing the wrong tire. I know you can still see the bricks there, but just take my word for it, I did swap to the other side. Yeah, just believe me, guys, believe me. So now you're gonna remove the spare wheel. This you can do before or after securing the car. So you're gonna remove the spare wheel. So as you could see, I took out the jack because that's what holds the wheel in place. And I'm struggling there. Got the tire out. So I have like a biscuit spare. That's one of these space saving thin flat tires that encourage you to fix your tire quickly, because you don't want to be driving around in the biscuit tire for a long time. And now that you got the tire and the jack out, you won't be needing anything from the car. Just make sure you take everything you need out the car before you jack it up, because you don't want to be climbing in and out of the car while it's jacked. So I've got one of these scissor-like jacks, so I can put it into place by hand just up until I can see that it's firmly in place, and then start to use the lever that comes with the jack. So firstly, I can start just by doing it like that. I'm a fairly strong guy, so as it gets tougher and tougher, I may need some extra torque. Those of you that did physics will know that bending that thing, the lever at an angle, gives me more torque. That's rotational force, for those of you that didn't do physics. If you don't know what I mean by rotational force, then I can't help you. So you just jack it up a bit. Actually, I'm doing all the wrong steps here. So now I'm loosening the bolts before I completely jack it up, because if I suspend the wheel in the air, if I try to loosen the bolts while the wheel is suspended in the air, the tire might just spin, and then I'll have to unjack it, bring it all the way down and then loosen the tires, and that's an unnecessary step. So before I jack the wheel all the way up, I'm going to loosen the bolts. So I'm using a bit of footwork there to loosen the bolts. You might want to be careful with that, because if you do that too recklessly, you might break the bolts. So you might want to be careful with that. But they were really tight, and I knew I was unscrewing it in the correct direction, so I was kind of comfortable using a bit of footwork there. So you're going to lift the tire until you can see some room underneath the tire, because if the tire is not completely lifted off the ground, there's going to be friction. It's going to be like the car is still connected to the ground, and it's going to be extremely difficult to remove the tire. So you just jack the car up until you can see about an inch. I don't know why I'm speaking in inches in South Africa, but anyway, until you see about 2 or 3 centimeters underneath the tire, then you know the tire is obviously off the ground. And then because you've loosened the bolts, the chances of the wheel rotating while you're removing the bolts are really slim. So now I just skipped a couple of minutes, saved y'all some time. So now the bolts are loose, you're gonna now completely remove the bolts of the wheel. So there are 5 of them here. So yeah, just be patient with me while I remove all of them. Actually, I think there's a way I can fast forward this video. Just give me a second. While I'm trying to figure that out, why don't y'all hit that subscribe and like button if you haven't already. So now here I'm just showing you the actual, I think it is a nail that punctured my tire. Yeah, it was a really tricky position, but yeah, the guys at the tire shop sorted me out on that one. So if you haven't guessed by now, I've given up trying to find the feature to fast forward a clip in this editing software I'm using, so I just cut the scene. So I'm just showing you the nail there, and yeah, it was a pretty bad puncture because it was near the sidewall. They had trouble patching that up, but the people at the tire shop sorted me out nicely. They managed to patch that tire. So now I'm going to attempt to put the spare wheel in place. So yeah, I'm going to try to align the bolts. Is it the bolts or the nuts? The bolts, yeah, I'm trying to align the bolts with the holes on the spare tire, and they're not aligning because the car is not jacked high enough. Yeah, and this is kind of expected because the tire I removed there was flat, so it didn't really take all that much elevation to get the tire out since the bottom of the tire was flat. I guess you can imagine what the picture I'm trying to paint here, right? Okay, so I'm gonna jack the car up a bit higher and then try and put the tire in place again. And I think this time I should get it right, because now I'm inserting a fully inflated tire where I removed a flat tire, so it might take a bit of elevation. And there, I got it in place. So now I'm gonna put the nuts on the tire, and this isn't really to tighten the nuts, is just to put the tire in place. Otherwise, if you just try to balance the tire without putting any nuts on the bolts, it's gonna wobble out of place. So yeah, I'm just securing the tire there just by hand. Just doesn't really need to be that tight. The bolts just need to be the nuts just to be bolted in place, and yeah, you'll tighten it with the lever or the spanner that you might have to loosen and tighten the bolts. I keep using nuts and bolts interchangeably. I think 80% of the time when I say bolts, I mean nuts, but yeah. So now I'm gonna actually tighten the nuts with the spanner, and this is also another step where you need to be careful because it's actually much easier than you think to damage and break these bolts. So this thing of people jumping on the spanner or lever they're using to tighten the bolts to make sure that it's really tight, it's unnecessary and it's dangerous. It damages the bolts. So you should just tighten it with your normal arm strength, or if you like, you can tighten it with the normal arm strength and then take it to a tire shop so that they use what they call a torque wrench. So it's like a wrench that has like a click. So they tighten it with this wrench, and then once the wrench clicks once, that means the tension of the bolt, of the nut on the bolt, is enough. Because this thing of tightening it as tight as you can, it's not a good thing. It's important to tighten them all equally as tight and tight enough. Too tight is just as bad as not tight enough, I think. Yeah, so now that I've tightened the bolts, I'm gonna lower the car, and after I've lowered the car, you'll see I will tighten the bolts again. This was just a temporary measure, just so I could get the car to the tire shop and have them patch the tire and return the normal tire back on the car. So I didn't really go around looking for a tire shop to tighten the bolts on the spare. But if you're gonna, let's say you don't have, I don't know, the funds or the savings to, maybe you need a new tire, because sometimes you can get a puncture so bad that you need a new tire, that patching the tire will not help. Like if you hit a pothole and you cut the tire or something, then you need to buy a new tire, and sometimes we don't budget for these things. So yeah, that's how to change tires. So I'm just gonna put the original tire back in the boot. And yeah, after this I made my way to the tire shop. They sorted me out. I think I drove around with a spare for like a day. So yeah, that was tight enough. So that's how to change a tire. So yeah, I had that little emergency and I had to change my tire, and I just thought I'd film it for y'all. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something.